Live on digital media from the vast and spacious VPOD-TV studios, the newly remodeled VPOD-TV studios in beautiful Oak Brook, Illinois. Villa Park, you'll never be Oak Brook. It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend, Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, former Liberty Magazine editor and Breitbart contributor, Tim Slagle. This week, a very special guest returns, broadcasting legend in his own right, Mike North. And now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. Oh, yeah. Syncopated. Tim, the comedian Fran Lebowitz, you remember her? Fran Lebowitz? Not Annie Leibovitz. Not Annie Leibovitz, the photographer. Fran Lebowitz. You remember her? I think because you're a
she's more of a
comedian.
comedy author, wasn't she? Comedy writer?
Maybe both. She did stand up as well.
I don't think
anyway, I remember seeing her one of her bits, and it was really snarky. She said that AIDS had taken down the very best gays. And whoa, ouch, the most talented and attractive gays. And emails could do that to the highest paid football coach, John Gruden. And sexual harassment could do that to a quote-unquote radio genius like Eric Ferguson. All I wanted to say was, thank God I'm a mediocrity, so nothing is going to take me down here. We will talk to Mike North, who's going to be our guest
coming up
in a few minutes. But the Gruden thing did bother me. I know you're not the biggest football fan in the world.
Oh, I heard about the Gruden thing.
Yeah, so you heard about it.
Yeah.
It got into your circle. But I was thinking, here's this guy who was criticized so much for things that he shouldn't have said. One of the reasons I can relate to him a little bit is that I'm a nasty emailer myself. So I mean, I don't know. Remember you're supposed to send it off in a letter to yourself. No, I actually send them off, but I don't. I mean, I don't use words like that. At least I don't think so. But here's a guy who's had to suffer the slings and arrows of the outrageous misfortune of being compared to Chucky. Did you know that? Chuck? Yeah, he's compared to Chucky, that monstrous little doll. Yeah, and he's had to live with that and take that with good humor for a couple of decades now. But he can't utter an epithet about Roger Goodell. So that was a little bit bothersome. Anyway, we'll talk to Mike North about that, more football stuff. I was noticing, little Timmy, that Larry Lujack. I was reading this in Robert Feder's post from the Daily Herald that the Museum of Broadcast Communication is going to have a special exhibit showing Larry Lujack's typewriter, the very Smith Corona that he typed animal stories on. And the first thought I had was, he actually had to type those out? Because, come on, they were like, you get a clip from the newspaper, maybe you use a yellow marking pen and underline a couple of words. The bit was like a minute and a half. Yeah. It wasn't like he was doing long form.
Well, no, it was a manual typewriter, though. So
So
he didn't want to. It kept, by having to type it up, kept him short.
I guess so. The thing is in the pantheon of famous typewriters, with I believe Alger Hiss's Woodstock that nailed him by Whittaker Chambers. Lujack Smith Corona. But okay, that's what they need for the Museum of Broadcast Communications.
$3,000, is that right? Was that the price on that? That's what it went for.
Oh, Larry Lujack's. Really? I didn't know you knew the. You got into the crosstabs on this.
I actually, when I got the email, I actually looked up the story. So.
Well, I saw. You mean you actually went to the link?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I didn't go to the link. I mean, that was enough, little Timmy. We don't really care that much about Larry Lujack.
No, $3,000 for a typewriter. That's they're mostly junk. I mean, unless it's like one of those real old, like you said, those Woodstock or whatever typewriters.
Right. Well, Smith Corona is not exactly.
No, they're turning the steampunk kids.
Did they throw in at least some of his whiteout for $500 or something? I mean, gee whiz. All right, so let's move on. So you were wondering, I had written down here. I heard an ad on the radio for that Bob Dylan was going to have a concert. I think I heard it on XRT, where the average age is now about Dylan's age. And they said the concert's at 8 p.m., and it will start promptly at 8 p.m. And I'm thinking, of course, the reason it will be is because everybody's got to go to sleep by 10, right? I mean, you don't really have, unless it's like Nobel laureates are always
also, they wanted everyone to get there early because they did those handicap ramps tend to jam up when you got all the walkers and wheelchairs.
And it's so slow to get out and everything like that.
I actually, speaking of Bob Dylan, somebody posted something on Facebook, something that I was not aware of. Have you ever heard the Bob Dylan Christmas album?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh my gosh.
No.
It's check it out.
Have you ever heard my parody? See, let's turn it to me.
Okay.
Of Simon and Garfunkel's Simple Desultory Philippic, which is a spoof of Bob Dylan. So it's like a meta spoof of Bob Dylan that I did. It's about the Cubs. I've been Lou Brocked, Bill Madlocked. I've been Mo Thackard, Warren Haggard. I heaved up hams on the friendly confines, creeping vines. I miss Kenny Hubbs and Mr. Cub, Roberta Pina, Silly Flubs, even Skinny Arm and Chuck Hartenstein. And then it goes on and on. I saw a no-hitter by Cardwell, some pass balls by Dick Bertell, crazy fits from Cardinal. Whatever happened to Salty Salt? Well, the man had no baseball sense when you said pitcher. He thought you were talking about a pitcher of beer, but hey, everyone, we got rid of Steve Stone. Okay, so that was my Dylan thing. Meta. So let's move on to Katie. Let's go, Brandon. Now, we didn't address this last week because you weren't even aware of the Let's Go, Brandon phenomenon at that point. Well, I
wasn't. Okay,
maybe it was Chris. I'll
do the improv thing where you always go along. Yep.
Sure, yeah.
I did not know. In fact, I still don't know. Not sure what that Let's Go Brandon thing is about.
It is. Everybody knows what it is now, so I don't have to explain it. But we do have a soundbite, as it were. Let's go, Brandon! Let's go, Brandon! And that's at a Christian college, right? Oh, that's great. So that actually, that did not sound like Let's Go Brandon to me. Of course, is that fading now? I guess I thought it was going to.
The Let's Go Brandon?
Yeah,
I think it's hilarious.
It's hilarious, but I'm wondering if it was basically a 1 week phenomenon.
No, because you're getting two. You're getting two. Right. 2 for 1. You're making fun of NBC News and Joe Biden with the same phrase.
So remember we were talking about Katie Couric last week, the maid in the tell-all. It said that Katie had not changed her underwear on the weekends, which I didn't blame Katie Couric for, because if she had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning every day during the weekdays and had to be perky all the time at home. Okay, so you turn your underwear inside out and you wear it. So now there's another thing that I don't think is the greatest revelation in the world, but apparently she edited Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She had interviewed Justice Ginsburg when Justice Ginsburg was like 83 years old. And Justice Ginsburg had said that she didn't like athletes who kneeled during the national anthem, that they were being disrespectful. Now, she left that in the interview, but then Justice Ginsburg embellished it, said a little bit more. But was it all that gratuitous? Do you actually have the... do we actually have what she said?
I just have the Daily Mail story.
What's the extra part that was?
I don't think they released that. She just said that there was more.
Well, there was just more.
There was a lot more that Ginsburg said. And she said, "I edited it out because she was just old."
In other words, she made comments like John Gruden did about DeMarcus Smith's lips. Okay, I get it.
Probably.
Right. Well, she was a little old then.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, so she's too senile to actually let her comments go on the air, but the same media knew she was that senile that they had to edit her, but let her go on the Supreme Court.
You've been Ginsburged. How's that for Kate McKinnon? Those of you who are not watching this, I did some gesticulation that was marvelous. Kate McKinnon would eat your heart out. So we're going to talk with Mike North, who's coming up, about the NBA and how ridiculous they look in light of COVID. Briefly, we can address the fact that Governor Abbott of Texas flip-flopped, basically, because he said that he was not going to allow private enterprise to issue vaccine mandates. And I thought it was a first principle of conservatism. We have first principles anymore, I guess, that we weren't going to tell private enterprise what to do, even if we disagreed with it. But now he's changed that.
Well, the vaccine thing, though, can actually be extended into a First Amendment protection when people are saying they're not going to get a vaccine because of a religious exemption. And a lot of corporations are going, no, that don't work.
Why aren't you being interviewed by Katie Couric on the Supreme Court? Rights in conflict. Here's a stand-up. I went to law school. I am a lawyer, and you are. I mean, this must go way over the heads of your audiences at Zanies.
Yeah, most of the time.
Really? Oh my God! Yeah. Have you ever started to set up a joke with? So Marbury meets Madison in a bar.
I actually had a John Locke line that never really.
Really?
Yeah, he said life, liberty, and property, but Jefferson was more interested in pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
And I can't remember how the joke went after that.
It's enough for me.
We lost property thanks to Jefferson's pursuit.
Mike North coming up.
Hey, chit-chit-chit here with the lot of sports. And I want to tell you, can I, just at the outset, a preface isn't word. I think I speak for all of me when I say this. Can I give a shout out to our very own Chicago Sky? You think of all the great players in Sky history. Candace Parker. Candace Parker. Okay, can't think of anyone else, but that's one more than any Chicago Fire soccer players I can think of. Karl-Heinz Granitza. No, he was with the Sting. And didn't he flee to Germany after his restaurant went under? But I digress. We never did extradite him, but how about the Bears? They lose their ace running back in their offensive line this week, and yet they ran well, and the defense excelled. And Justin Fields threw a wonderful completion on 3rd and 12 late in the game. And just one more thing. John Gruden was about to get fired. I mean, on the sidelines, he's probably looking at emails about his emails, and this had to be about the worst moment for him, since as an ESPN analyst on draft day, he kept exhorting the Browns to take Johnny Manziel about made Manziel with the top pick. The Bears ended Gruden's career, which is almost as good as Corey Wooten sacking Brett Favre for the last play of his career, but not nearly as good as Gary Fensick intercepting Joe Namath on his 7th to last pass. I think Susie Colbert intercepted his last pass. I mean, who had Urban Meyer outlasting John Gruden? Bears in the pack, yak. Pardon my Billy Joel on Sun, it sold. Mason Crosby was one missed kick away last week from saying on the Today Show how he still believed in himself. Last week, the Bears had the advantage of facing a guy who ran the team when it was about to be fired. That's not happening this week with the guy who runs the Packers, Aaron Rodgers. And a final word about your Chicago White Sox. I love the way the wind whips through Craig Kimbrell's hair before he gives up a long fly ball. I love Dusty Baker in a mask, except when he was being interviewed by Tom Verducci 2 feet away. What? Verducci doesn't have cooties, but the Bat Rack does, Dusty? I love how the announcers kept talking about how passionate Sox fans are. And yes, they are. When there's a playoff game in town for the first time in 13 years, who wants to go to 35th and the Dan Ryan the rest of the time? AJ was pretty much a straight shooter the rest of the time. Speaking of which, the conversation turned to football, and AJ snarked, I think, that you can't say shootout anymore, but then not more than a couple of minutes later, he was saying the Sox were looking down the barrel of a gun. Someone should check AJ's emails. That is a lobotomy lot on sports up. Yay. And now we're joined by Mike North, the legend. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Let me tell you something. That was as good as you'll hear on any radio station.
Thank you.
You know what? You almost got to do that character to be able to do a 4-hour show now and say, hey, you know what? I was just kidding. Because,
right.
If you do it as yourself, you might find yourself in hot water.
I think I can't even kid anymore. I mean, John Gruden, Jason Whitlock, the columnist who's black, said he's not so sensitive. So he didn't mind it. He wouldn't have minded had Gruden said about him what he said about, who's it, DeMarcus Smith of the NFLPA. He's made some comment about his lips. The thing about the homophobic stuff with Roger Goodell, I'm not sure that you should be seeing that kind of thing. But where in the world, Gruden was collateral damage on this. This was an investigation of the team that's currently called the Washington Football Team, and all of a sudden, who had it in for John Gruden? Huh?
Yeah, at 610,000 or 630,000 emails, and A lot of stuff that John Gruden said he wasn't. It sounds like he was, Bruce. You know how it's 2021. But some of the stuff he said, I mean, I think it was predictable. I should have probably called you, and you should have said, "What's up, Mike?" Well, first of all, I'm surprised you're calling me at this time during a Bear game or before the Bears. And we should have probably put $10,000 each on the Bears, because if you're a Raider, how are you playing under that kind of atmosphere where your coach has emails floating around? And I think people knew about these emails. He worked at ESPN. When a lot of this stuff was going on. Yet I hear all the disappointment and the surprise from some of the anchors over there, and I'm going, wait a minute. You used to share the same stage with the guy. So it's too bad. It looks bad for him. See, people get called out for things that aren't true. But other people get called out with things, and there's overwhelming evidence.
Sure.
And it's supplied by the actual person. I can't imagine saying a lot of this stuff, saying any of it, but I'll type it out for you. I mean,
but he has character references like Tim Brown. He said, I loved John Gruden. He was great to me. So, look, I happen to be a nasty emailer myself. I don't use epithets like that, but it's just, can't you have a private thought? But you can't, and it's just collateral damage. That's
what he is. Thing. Look, he can't coach. Look at anybody that thinks that John Gruden's going to coach a college team. You know what is crazy. And I would even say this: the Urban Meyer to USC nonsense that I'm hearing. They had a guy named Sarkisian where his players were scaling up gutters in an apartment building, trying to get in an apartment. He was walking around in a half daze. He got a gig with Alabama. But, I mean, if Urban Meyer...
What do you think of John Calipari? He kept getting, he was like one step ahead of the law at every basketball powerhouse he was at. I mean, how did Derrick Rose? My bit was that I took the SAT for Derrick Rose and didn't do that well on it, but was good enough to get into Memphis.
You know what? I never took it because I dropped out of high school, but I did look at the paperwork, and that's more than Derrick Rose did.
I remember when I had to give back my NCAA tournament winnings because I was bet on his team. It's the first time in history that somebody had a year later had to give back his office pool NCAA tournament.
Yeah, well, one of my buddies said, "What about the SAT?" I go, "That's tomorrow. We're going to play pinball at Bonnie's Saturday." What are you talking about? SAT, ACT. Yeah. You go to school and you still got it. They give you another test and another test. That's what turned me sideways on the school experience.
No, I understand that. Let us turn to you're talking about sports radio, and they're all woke nowadays. I mean, you couldn't get a job in regular sports radio, and I couldn't either, unless you want to do right-wing sports radio.
I can't get a job at Mangiano's with my attitude.
Right, no. I mean, I would say we could do a show, right-wing sports radio, but we would never have any sponsors because...
Yeah, but you'd have more listeners than anybody.
Yeah, but...
here's the thing.
Yeah, but see...
Why don't they have a sports station of conservative people?
Because I'm telling you... Because 100,000 listeners times zero revenue is still zero revenue. Because you...
Oh, no, if you have... You know what it is, Bruce? It's about stars. Believe me when I tell you this. I worked at I had a vision. Danny Lee picked up the ball from my vision. Mm-hmm. We started a sports station with 3 shows. Right. We were charging the same amount of money after 1 year as WXRT was, at $200 a minute. Because we had some star power, we had a great lineup, and we had bosses that stood behind us and did. You want to do it? Go ahead. You want to do this? Go ahead. You want to have a sparring match with Jesse Jackson, Mike? Go ahead.
Yeah, but you can't do that now.
We're celebrating our 30th year on the Score. Nobody's going to know it because Danny Lee's the guy that took my vision when he walked in the hot dog stand. He says, "Mike, I'm starting a jazz station." I said, "You're out of your mind. You should start a sports station. Go home." And by the Sunday Trib and Sunday Sun-Times, count the advertisements in the sports section, and then count the ones in the entertainment section.
Then make the biggest mistake of your life, Danny, and offer the lead job to Bruce Wolf, who will turn it down so Mike North can take the job.
You know what? I've never been mad at you, but you've been mad at me about 10 different times.
I've never been mad. What am I mad at you about? I'm not mad at you. I'm glad you...
I just seen that times you were very tense with me, and I didn't make any of your decisions. As your agent, I would have said, take the job.
No, I couldn't. I couldn't.
And you know what? Yeah. I was surprised as anybody. I go, "You want me?" And that was it. You know what you did? But Bruce, you don't have to apologize for your career. Forget about it.
No.
You kidding me?
No,
I just listened to Chet Chit Chat.
Yeah, you
I
did.
laughed as hard as I did when I first started.
It would have been nice that I actually heard you laughing, Mike. I think you were watching the football game right now because you were multitasking.
Really.
All right.
No, you got to give yourself more credit.
Okay. See, Tim,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, give me a little more credit.
I laughed at Chet Chit Chat
Sure
harder
you did.
than I did the first time, too.
Yeah, all right, there. Ooh, okay.
That's right.
So, Mike, here's the
And
difficulty.
Ellie Del Dome was on the sky. Don't forget that.
If you're on woke sports radio right now, it's very difficult because on the one hand, you want to embrace, the whole liberal thing about kneeling for the national anthem and everything, and being on the side of the black athletes. If you're a woke sports radio show host, like some nameless people,
Okay.
but then you get a guy like Kyrie Irving, who believes, I loved it when he said, I don't think we can constitutionally say the earth is round. Okay, all right. I love the use of the word constitutional. But he won't answer whether he's vaccinated or not. And of course, he couldn't play because he wouldn't. And then now he's actually in league with all the rednecks who don't want to be vaccinated. And they wind up praising him because he bought George Floyd's mother a house. Now, I would just, with this caveat, I mean, she did get $27 million in the settlement, so I don't know that she actually needs the house. If you actually wanted to be generous, ridiculously generous, you'd give the house to Derek Chauvin, the cop's family, because he's going to be in jail for 22 years. But that's beside the point. The point is, if I can get back to this, is how do you reconcile the fact that you want to embrace the kinds of things that Kyrie Irving stands for, but then he's not vaccinated and you think he's an idiot and you're a woke sports radio host? Quite a conundrum, isn't it, Mike North? Would you like me to repeat
you covered
that?
a lot of things, Bruce, and I'm going to go over each and every one of them. If I can remember past two.
Sure.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. Number one, I was at CBS when they hijacked that show, and they said, we want to make it this way instead of the way you want it, Mike. We lasted a year, but I'll take the severance pay. As one of my responsibilities was supposed to go to a sponsors luncheon with Katie Couric.
Oh, my goodness.
As the...
You mean the same Katie Couric who doesn't change her
speaker.
underwear?
I don't know.
Okay,
Katie Couric, the young lady or the lady who told Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who tore up Ruth Bader Ginsburg's legacy by saying, you know what? You're saying that kneeling on the flag isn't a good thing. You're saying that Kaepernick, you know what? You shouldn't have done this. You're saying that first-generation Americans got a great life because of the United States and because of that flag. I don't think you're cogent.
You're out. Hey, Mike, you are very cogent. We're going to come back to you.
And believe me.
I have to take a break. We're going to come right back to you. Catch up on the football game. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle, Mike North on the Weekly Wrap.
And secondly, we can only presume that you're not joining us right now because of vaccination. I'm curious, is that accurate? And if so, or do you expect to be either vaccinated or compliant in time by the time you guys come back from LA after that postseason game, after the preseason game?
Yeah, no, Brian, I appreciate your questions, bro. Honestly, I like to keep that stuff private, man. I'm a human being first, and obviously living in this public sphere, there's just a lot of questions about what's going on and in the world of Kyrie. And I think I just would love to just keep that private and, handle it the right way with my team and go forward together with a plan. So, obviously I'm not able to be present there today, but that doesn't mean that I'm putting any limits on the future of me being able to join the team. And I just want to keep it that way so we can keep that private. And if anybody has any further questions about that, please, it'd be the same response. I would like to keep that private. And just please respect that.
Yes, my question would be, I would say you're in contempt of the press conference and answer the question. You're not a private human being. Mike North, is he a private human being? Kyrie Irving?
This is a tricky one because I got the jab. I really didn't want to, but my wife got it, and she embarrassed me sort of by when we went to the Crystal Lake auditorium, which I didn't know they had, and they had some National Guardsmen there giving jabs. A guy named Hector jabbed me, and I looked at him, and he says, Good luck. And I took the Johnson. And the reason I
but
took
did you take a shot?
I don't know if my husband.
Oh, excuse me.
I don't know. What? I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
You woke up there.
Yeah, there you go. You haven't been on the radio in a while.
I took the jab and I feel good. And I think Kyrie Irving has been a problem since last year. I was one of the few. You were talking about sports radio woke. I've never been woke. I'll say it right now. I don't think anybody should kneel on the flag. I don't think anybody should disrespect the flag. I got drafted and almost went to Vietnam. So you're talking to the wrong cat. I got everything I got because of this country.
How did you avoid Vietnam?
How did you avoid? That you don't like this country, that's fine.
How did you avoid Vietnam?
Let's get to Kyrie Irving.
Right.
He did this crap last year. They let him. He played like 10 games. And now all of a sudden they're putting their foot down because of the vaccine. I don't know where to go on this side, but if he doesn't play, if you're not fully committed to any team, you're not winning. And, for people that are betting the over in the Nets wins at a certain amount, you're not getting it in the NBA, especially with Kyrie Irving. He's always been a diva. He's always been a malcontent. You know what? He won with LeBron. Congratulations. Last year you lost to Milwaukee when they were the favorites, and now you're playing these games. If you're Kevin Durant, you got to be wondering, what are we doing here?
Mike, I lost you because I don't care about the NBA. But let's...
Yeah, but Kyrie Irving plays for the association. That's what they call it now, Bruce.
Really? The association. I love...
no MB. The association.
I actually saw the association in concert at Niles North High School in like 1970.
Let me tell you something.
They killed on Never My Love. Yes.
No better love song.
Let's do it.
No better dance
you
song.
You ask
Never
me if there'll come the time when I grow tired of
Never My Love.
They
were good. They had and you never knew their names. There was like 15 of them.
They were avant-garde, too. Along Comes Mary is very much like, it's a pot song, and it's against the establishment. They were on the Smothers Brothers. They had to be cool.
Spanky and our gang, man.
Spanky but I'd like to get to know you. Yes, I would. Okay. So,
you want to hear a good story about Chicago bands?
Yeah. New Colony 6 or the Buckinghams?
Both.
All right.
I had them play on my 25th anniversary.
Really?
Carl G. and Marisi, Ronnie Rice, all the guys. I had them play my driveway. We blocked the street off in Park Ridge, and they played all their songs, and the people were up in arms at about 10:30 because everybody was trying to sleep.
I wish you had invited me.
Kind of a drag.
You should kind of a drag. Great. I wish you had invited me because I had a tribute band to American English, which itself is a tribute band to the Beatles. I'm very meta that way. Yeah, it was the Fab One. But you didn't invite
the Beatles. God bless.
So,
hey, did you hear Paul McCartney says Lennon was a problem?
Of course he was. McCartney saved that group. He was the genius. I mean, come on. Imagine that practically buried the Beatles' legacy. What a piece of crap that song is.
I love mind games.
Yeah, right. Okay, the White Sox. I loved Adam Wainwright in the booth. I heard AJ kept referring to Waino. I thought there was some Hispanic pitcher in the booth until I saw Wainwright. And he made fun when La Russa came out to argue, and he's gesticulating, and they show Wainwright, and he says, the managers have to do that because it's for the crowd, because they can't hear what they're saying. So they just make up all these gestures, and he starts doing the gestures. And I'm thinking, does that guy live the life? He's sitting there in a broadcast booth. He makes $1 a year. He's a strapping young man, and he's in the catbird seat, as Red Barber would say. But I thought that was fascinating. That he was actually making fun of this. I don't think Stoney can do stuff like that. You can't make fun of managers the way Wainwright just did.
Next year, things will be different. The Sox will tighten the screws.
You know,
Steve Stone.
Stoney.
You know,
Stoney. I love Stoney.
La Russa was a big advocate, so once again, I was right. That's another thing. Once in a while, when you're talk shows, you know this, Bruce, be right once in a while. If you liked Cutler and it didn't work out, admit it. Just say it. Be right once in a while. If you didn't like La Russa, don't try to change things and go, well, we could have done this with Renteria. The Sox played 60 games last year. There's no comparison. They played the Astros, and you know what? La Russa, I will say this, Bruce. When you play the number one fastball hitting team in baseball, and your pitching coach maps out the chart for Lance Lynn and he throws 72 fastballs against the Houston Astros, you're finished. And then the other day, Rodon, they don't pitch him for a month, and he threw like 95% fastballs. You're not beating the Astros. Right. That was bad planning.
Now, I should mention that, of course, we were on together on this vaunted podcast the day after your main Mercedes, when he was, the rage, had hit the home run. And
we made fun of the guy.
We made fun of him, and we defended La Russa when nobody else was doing it. Yes.
He's going to lose the team.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Meanwhile, Tim Anderson loves him because La Russa. And you know what?
Lose the team.
What I love is
how are we going to win a division where everybody finishes under 500 without Yerman?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, and La Russa's is racist and everything. Meanwhile, he actually speaks Spanish. I mean, the sports radio host maybe did, Oué la bibliothèque. Well, that's French.
Yeah.
But anyway.
No, and he's a dog lover. He's a good guy and a baseball mind. And it thrills me to see. I learned from my elders. I learned from listening to radio before me, whether it was Wally Phillips or whether it was Larry Lujack, anybody you want to talk about, Steve Dahl, Brandmeier, Wolf, Kopic.
I'm glad I got thrown in there. Yeah.
And to say, they were before.
How about Roy Leonard?
No, they're moving on. Not you, Bruce, but they're moving on. You know what? The disrespect to Tony La Russa was bigoted. That's the way it is. They were ageist.
Ageist, yeah.
They're young. Most of them are young, below the age of 40, and they never think that they're going to have their balls hanging to their knees when they're 70.
Excuse me?
Come on now.
Yeah. Ouch. Ouch. Is that what happens? I don't know.
You put wheels on them, and then they just...
There we go. Wheelbarrow guy. All right, coming up, the Bears and the Green Bay Packers on Sunday at Soldier Field. And, they won't have the advantage, of course, of facing John Gruden again. But and they're going to be wearing those awful white uniforms with the little stripes on them. But
Bronco Nagurski wore those. No, he didn't.
He did not.
They never wore uniforms like that. They didn't have helmets. Are you kidding me?
And when they tackled them, you had to keep them down on the ground, right?
Yeah. And they couldn't launch themselves because they'd hurt themselves because they didn't have headgear. Now they give them headgear for missiles.
Helmets were the worst thing in the world. They were much safer. Although,
seriously, Tatum hitting Stingley, a lot of that was helmet, man.
That was
horrible. That was helmet.
That was horrible. I still feel Frank Gifford, or God rest his soul, the hit he took from Chuck Bednarik. Cha-cha. Yeah.
Chuck Bednarik said, "Hey, how you doing?" And the guy goes 2-2-9. He goes, "We're out for the year, pal."
Frank Gifford laid out there.
The next year, ready to go.
He never recovered, obviously, and a testament to that is that he married Kathy Lee. But do you have a prediction on the Bears Packers?
Yeah, Fields could go 1 for 50, and if they win, he'll be in the Hall of Fame. Bottom line is, he's the people's choice. If he can win, I'm all for him. I think the Bears are 4.5-point dogs right now. I think they could stay within the number. 2 of Green Bay's corners are out. That's big, but will Fields have the time to throw? The offensive line seems to be getting it together. Desai on defense, I like that the Bears' defense for the first time in a couple of years is actually trying to get to the quarterback, being aggressive. They're not going back in coverage with their linemen. I'm going to pick the Bears in an upset and a win, 22-21.
Wow. Well, by the transitive property of football scores, the Bears beat the Bengals, and the Packers just barely beat the Bengals, so therefore, ergo, doesn't mean anything. But
but that's all about filling time. Content. That's what you've always. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
No,
you know that.
What? What are you saying?
You feel time. Listen, do you see the other night they said first of all, how does lightning come in a dome?
Exactly.
That's thing.
Yeah, right.
Wait a minute.
That's
wait a minute.
You're supposed to play.
Right.
Yeah.
They go, there's a dome. There's a lightning thing. They go, but there's the window, there's sides. They can get in the sides. They go, wait a minute. I slept with the window open my whole life. You mean lightning could have come through the window and killed me?
Right.
What the hell's going on?
Yeah. Remember when, who took it at Tam O'Shanter? Somebody at a golfer. I remember. Remember? Somebody got struck by lightning?
The one on Howard Street? Shander?
The
one,
maybe
is that where it's at?
Maybe it was Chick Evans. Anyway, or Edgebrook.
I heard about Chick Evans. I don't think he was a real person.
No. They just made up a guy for a scholarship. It's
He looked
like a
up
Greek
Chick
myth.
Evans. There's 9 different people. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Mike, as always, we'll get it together again soon. Win a lot of money.
Right?
Gambling.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it sounds good. Follow Mike. He's on everything.
I'm starting to warm up to you, Bruce.
Yeah, after all these years. I'll give up another gig for you that you can become a legend on for 25 years.
You're the best, bud.
Thank you, Mike
Best. I love
North.
you. Take care.
Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Who's there? So, Kamala Harris has a problem with her popularity, to which she has
just
none.
a tad.
She has none. I mean, she's insurance for Joe Biden, I guess. She's had a real rough time of it. So they're trying to dress her up, and they had some kind of a video that she did with child actors. They weren't genuine people; they were actors. And we have a clip of this. Shall we run it right now?
The United States. But she's also the president of the Senate. And the head of the Space Council.
Well, welcome, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Ready to start? Okay, go. So, I may not always be fast to take my parents' advice, but what is the best advice your parents have given you that perhaps you can share with us today? You know, one of the most important pieces of advice that I can offer you guys,
Wear knee pads.
and I want you to really remember this.
Have an affair with the mayor of San
Never let anybody tell you
Francisco?
who you
Is
are.
that what
You tell them who you are.
Yeah.
Tell them who you are.
I mean, the kid had like one line. I mean, couldn't they have gotten a genuine person, not had actors?
If you had seen, I didn't see that you're supposed to fast forward to 3:38. So I watched the first 3 minutes. If anyone doesn't know these are child actors, they're out of their mind. I mean, my Lord, it looks like they've been prepped their entire life to be the cute kids on a Barney reboot.
So
Sure.
yeah, that's aren't Social Security checks going up now because of the COLA, the cost of living?
We just have to make the rich pay their fair share.
It doesn't work that way, and because there are only so many rich. You know that. I mean, I'm arguing with the choir right here on that. Well, and I was actually listening to Jonah the Remnant podcast, Jonah Goldberg, and he had this Brian Riedel from the Manhattan Institute on, and he was making the point, which we all know. People have these misconceptions about the federal budget. I mean, they think it's all defense spending, when, of course, we spend like the lowest amount of GDP on defense of any nation in the history of the universe.
It's 1/6 of the budget. 1/6.
It's been going down and down. And overwhelmingly, we're paying for the entitlement, Social Security and health benefits, and we're talking about trillions and trillions into the future, whereas everything else is a rounding error. I mean, including what we spend it on the Afghanistan war every year. But people don't understand that, or they don't want to listen. So anyway, this Riedel had this idea that maybe there could be a grand bargain between Democrats and Republicans to rein in entitlement spending, because the boomers are going to be 80 years old in like 10 years or so, and once they are that, there's no way you can touch them. I was thinking, however,
well, yeah, because they didn't have any kids. I mean, they had the pill, they had Roe v. Wade,
right?
It's, you know,
selfish people.
The children they're supposed to be paying their Social Security checks are in medical waste dumpsters.
Well, that's right. Oh, there. That's a slogan to run on, my friend. I've got a congressional district in Virginia that you can run on that campaign. No, but these 80-year-olds. One thing he didn't recognize is they are going to die, though. So they are will be on the cusp of death at that point. Another thing is that I think the Democrats have been short-sighted, because they're always talking about extending the franchise, making it much easier to vote. 24/7, 7-Eleven, vote on American Idol for the President of the United States, whatever you have to do. But if they were really forward-thinking, they'd make it more difficult to vote for senior citizens who that's the one thing they got to do when they're 80 years old is get out to the polls. Now, of course, they probably have enough money to spend some of it on that Lyft ride to the polls every couple of years. But that would deter the senior, because they're the ones who come out and vote. And you got to look. I'm speaking against my own interests because I'm getting to that age.
Have a maximum age for the polls.
Right.
Well, I think that's why it took so long for pot to get legalized. I think that whole generation before the boomers had to kind of get out of the polls before pot could actually be legal. I mean, I think that was the stopping point.
Well, I mean, it's probably the same as gay marriage.
Yeah,
as well. I remember used to do a radio show with Dan Proft on WLS, and he was sanguine about the whole thing. Oh well, it's voted down every time. I go,
well, actually, it actually was.
Well, yeah, but except there's one vote, Anthony Kennedy's. That was the one vote. Doesn't matter what every state in the union says. If Anthony Kennedy didn't like it. I used to call Anthony Kennedy the High Sparrow. A little Game of Thrones reference, just to show the kids that I'm cool about that, and enjoyed the season-ending episode when Cersei, whatever her name was, did the walk of shame for 4 minutes and 58 seconds. Not that I was counting.
Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about the last week. We were talking about the CGI that they employed there to make her look less like Cersei.
So Marist students, that's Marist High School. That's Catholic high school, right?
I think so.
In Chicago suburban area. Thank you. And they apparently there's a racial war going on there. No, it reminded me of something right out of West Side Story, the Jets versus the Sharks at the high school dance, because they weren't. It wasn't as well choreographed as Bernardo and Tony, but apparently, like some of the Anglos got on their knees when a Spanish song was played at the homecoming. And I don't think it was "I like to be in America." No. So, yeah.
Was it La Cucaracha? What was
no, that is really... Okay. Bring in the righty from the bullpen right now. I think we're done with Tim here. I'd like at least one more episode out of this. That's not even on an email with John Gruden. So, yeah, you'd think that they learned how to get along at the high school level. It's hard to.
It's always going to be that. I mean,
they're not fossilized like we are. They're with it kids.
Yeah, but there's always going to be the tables. There's going to be the cool table. There's going to be the dork table. There's going to be the.
Yeah, but you think it would cross cultural and ethnic lines, and now this sounded like a Hispanic versus white battle going on, and it just reminded me. That's the beginning of West Side Story.
Oh, yeah, I should have recognized.
You were not a Jerome. You don't remember Jerome Robbins' choreography? Do you know?
Not whistled like that.
In West Side Story, so they got Lenny Bernstein and Jerome Robbins, and they got these guys, and they decided to bring in one guy, just let's bring in somebody who has never written anything for a Broadway musical. One guy, Stephen Sondheim, they brought in for that. Okay, and that just shows when you mix things up, when you have a melting pot of talent, that it works that way. But apparently, the melting pot is not working at the high school dance at Marist High School.
I always thought West Side Story was goofy.
Crap you! Crap you! Oh my God! All right.
Oh man, I am so mad at you. I'm going to dance.
Exactly. Today the minutes seem like.
I mean, that didn't start happening in real life till the ‐90s, where they started doing the break. The dance gangs dancing against each other.
Yeah. Now, do you like this show, Squid Games? Have you tried this?
I have not seen it. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
We tried one episode, and it's a war of attrition. It's like a competition among people that
Hunger Games
kind of thing. And it's a war of attrition, and I think it's an audience attrition as well, because we're not lasting past the first episode. Well, I can't take they played this game, spoiler alert, red light stop, green light go, with this gigantic doll, and then if you moved, they eliminated you. Literally, the machine guns came out, and you see all the blood of these Koreans all over the place, and I just
like an episode of MASH.
I can't. I couldn't take anymore. But it's apparently one of the most popular things. Now, I think even worse than that, of course, speaking of those Survivor type games, was being stuck on the reality show with Patty Blagojevich a number of years ago when you had to listen to her proclaim Rod's innocence. Now, that was a little bit tougher. I'd rather be shot than have to listen to her.
I don't know.
Lobbying.
I always thought that Rod, he didn't do anything that wasn't done a million times over in Chicago.
Well, no, I think he expedited it. I mean, there's a way of doing it, and he didn't do it the right way.
I think he just upset the wrong people.
Chris is agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why? Why didn't he have a cloud? I mean, what's the problem?
Didn't he threaten like her father-in-law to go after
Richard
his car?
Mell, Dick Mell, go to number 33.
Yeah, he said it like Thanksgiving dinner. I'm gonna investigate.
So you got to have some allies.
Hauling.
You got to have some allies.
Yeah.
I remember Rod's last press conference. It was great, right before he's going to the clink, and he can't let go. Absolutely can't let go. And first off, Chuck Gowdy, God bless his soul at Channel 7, asked the most, you think I'm a shock jock? Chuck Gowdy, the worst. He asks Patty, are you going to stick with him? Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I cringed. But Rod kept talking, and he wouldn't stop. And we were playing the I provided pap smears for the women of Illinois drinking game because he would bring it up every 2 minutes when he'd run out of things to say about how I was great for the state of Illinois. And plus, I had nicer hair than Rod. But every couple
Mo
of minutes,
Howard had nicer hair than Rod.
He had, and hate that gray, wash it away. But now he's back, and I feel bad because he was just about to make his comeback. He was released from prison, and the pandemic hits. So there's nothing there for Rod. Maybe he can join us on the next week's podcast.
Try to get him.
Think about it.
He would probably do it.
I bet you he would. I bet you would. That's it for us. Good night, everybody. Bruce Wolf and Tim Slagle on the weekly rap bonus segment. Boy, that show was good. Got another one under
That
our
was
belt.
the funniest chit-chat ever.
Nothing. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Very kind of you. So what is the bonus segment today, Chris?
We got such good response that we had to do it back-to-back for the first time ever, a bonus segment, which is the Sharyl Attkisson, the Attkisson Diet, if you will, where we go through this long media list of lies starting really when Trump's rise came in.
Define good response. One email?
Yes. One comment.
If John Gruden had gotten one decent email from Roger Goodell, he'd still have a job right now.
That's a callback. See, we talked about that earlier.
Oh, yeah. Bears repeating.
The Bears, the last team John Gruden will ever face.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Bears are repeating this season.
I think he'll be. I think he'll be a coach in the XFL someday.
The XFL might change now that Vince McMahon's no longer involved. Which was you couldn't have any police record of any kind. Remember this? The next
I didn't
iteration,
realize
you had to stand for the anthem. Vince McMahon's a big Republican. His wife ran for Senate and everything.
Sure.
You couldn't have any criminal record, like a DUI even.
Wow.
That's why Johnny Manziel wasn't in the league, because he had.
So Tony La Russa could not even play or coach in the XFL.
You would think the WWE reputation of people being a bit wild.
You think they all be monsters, but in fact they're just actors. Yeah. Like Kamala Harris's retinue.
Another callback. Very good.
Okay.
All right, so let's get through a few of these on the list. I think we left off. There's 150. We're only at number 8.
Okay.
So if we get another email, this will be back soon again. January 26, 2017. Josh Rogan of the Washington Post reported that the State Department's entire senior administrative team had resigned in protest of Trump. A number of media outlets ranging from the left to right, including Fox, stated this claim was misleading or wrong.
And what are we supposed to say?
You're supposed to. You remember how this works?
Vaguely.
We just get to rehash old headlines. And you get to
it was obviously false.
It's just a trip down memory lane. Yeah,
it's obviously false. I think of January 26, 2017, of course, as the 32nd anniversary of the Bears Super Bowl.
Huh.
Yeah. But let's move on.
I think Dan Proft once said you don't have a reference that's more than 30 years.
Well, wait a minute. No, he said not beyond 1970, and that's 1986. Okay. So cut me some slack, Jack.
I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah.
That's all right. It happens.
Yeah, my age.
The heartbreak of psoriasis, or whatever it is that you have. Okay.
You constantly refer to it as your dotage, Bruce.
Yes, I do. Thank you for reminding me. Okay.
January 28th, 2017. CNBC's John Harwood reported that the Justice Department had no input on Trump's immigration executive order. After a colleague contradicted Harwood's report, he amended it to reflect that the Justice Department lawyers reportedly had reviewed Trump's order. Not really a barn burner here, but at least to show.
Can we skip ahead to January 30th, 2017? Is this what we're going to do every other day until we get to the end of the year? I hope it's not a leap year.
Okay. I'm going to do you one better and go to January 31st.
But our fans love this. We can't. We got to go through it slowly.
I've got emails burning up my iPad right now.
You could just say fan. Do you ever listen to, I'm sure you don't, but the Smartless podcast with Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes from Naperville, Illinois, COD alum, and what was the third one? Will Arnett.
Oh,
and
very
they always
good.
refer to it as their fan because they get a lot of email from a fan in Wisconsin. So they always say our fan thinks.
Is Ozark coming back?
It is.
It is coming back.
It is back.
But here's
Final season.
Here's the problem with Ozark, okay? So we watched it once, the first few seasons, and then we wanted to pick up on it again, but we had to watch the first few seasons all over again just to get to season 3 or 4 or whatever. Now we're going to have to watch it all over again because it's just impossible and it's not worth it.
That's actually a good strategy if you want to make your show look more popular than it actually is.
Right. Gin up the interest.
Or in your dotage that you just need to remind yourself.
Yes, exactly.
They're cutting it into 2 half seasons to get it back as quick as possible. So I think it's back in February or March of 6 episodes, and the rest will be on in the summer.
All right. Okay.
Jason Bateman reference gets us a whole Ozark rip. So let's go all the way now. Skip over the 30th and get to the 31st of January 2017. CNN's Jeffrey Zeleny reported that the White House set up Twitter accounts for 2 judges to try and keep Trump's selection for Supreme Court secret. Zeleny later corrected his report to state that the Twitter accounts had not been set up by the White House. And the correction, of course, came days later and was on a web page way deep in CNN.
Can we? I've got an idea for a bonus segment. Change, like just Sudoku. We just start playing Sudoku.
I was gonna do a Tim's Town and Wolf's World where I just read your tweets where you have your word scores from, because it posts every time you have a word score in your game you play every day. And every day there's 8 of them, so I have to scroll through all your word scores.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, they probably post without you knowing because you're in an app playing a game.
Oh.
And then when you get a word score, it automatically posts so all of your followers can see. So I see 8 of those every day. So I was just going to read your word scores every day.
I would love
have Tim's funny ones.
Be wonderful. Also, if we could recreate the Fischer-Spassky chess match from '72, move by move.
And an audio reading of it.
You know what I learned from the Queen's Gambit? That chess matches are far more exciting with a hot chick.
Totally. That's what I was going to say. You jumped me on that one. En passant by you, my friend. Absolutely. Because otherwise, it is the dullest thing in the world. Also, when the biggest action is hitting the clock, that's the whole thing. And nobody understands the strategy. If you understood the strategy, you'd be a grandmaster yourself. So nobody gets it. That's all right. All right, do you have one? I think one more. This may be the very last Attkisson's Diet.
I don't know. The fan loves it.
Mm-hmm. As we move into February 2017, and you were there.
February 2nd, 2007.
Groundhog Day. I remember it well. The
good thing it wasn't a leap year.
Exactly. Don't ask me if you saw a shadow. Can I tell you one thing wrong with Groundhog Day, the movie, which was wonderful? I mean, it was. It's an inspiring movie and everything.
Nothing is wrong.
There's one thing wrong.
Go ahead.
That Annie MacDowell is a cardboard character. It's all about Bill Murray and Phil Connors, the character that he plays, and it's all about his growth and development. But the woman, because these movies, at least in that era, I don't know how they are now. Maybe now they're all superheroes or whatever, but or Chicago Sky players, you know. But it's just they're cardboard. They're one-dimensional. They can never have a flaw. They can never have to grow. And that, you know, and it was all about Phil, and that's he's the only human being. She's just just an ornament. And that's the only thing that was wrong with the movie.
Is this you lobbying for a job back in big media, being woke and...
I want Harold Ramis, should he come back, to cast me in his next movie, Highland Park's very own. All right, so what was the question?
This is February 2nd, 2017.
Yeah.
Groundhog Day.
Here we go.
I got the joke.
High five me. High five me, man. No, don't touch. Yeah.
So February 2nd, 2000.
Right. What was the name of the insurance?
Love won't fade away.
What was the name of the insurance guy again in Groundhog Day? I'm trying to remember because I wanted to make a joke about it and I couldn't remember who it was. Ned, not Ned Flanders. Some other.
Simpsons.
Yeah, forget it. Go ahead. Move on. Thank you.
February 2nd, 2017.
A day like any other day, full of sound and fury signifying nothing.
TMZ reported, which oddly TMZ has become a reliable source compared to some other
Ned
outlets.
Ryerson, I believe, was the name.
You're getting a confirmation from our TD.
Yeah, okay.
TMZ reported Trump changed the name of Black History Month to African American History Month, implying the change was untoward or racist. In fact, President Obama, George Bush, Bill Clinton had all previously called Black History Month African American History Month.
Did he actually change it?
I don't think was it changed.
I don't know.
What was the report? That he did change?
That he did change it from Black History Month, and implying the change was racist.
Right, because you wouldn't want to adopt the name that Jesse Jackson gave to black people, which was African American.
As a piggyback, did you guys celebrate Indigenous People Day for the first time on Monday?
I would like to talk a little bit about Columbus Day. The fact that I was in the Channel 5 parade, float, in 2006, and it was a great privilege to be in the Columbus Day parade, where the reviewing stand was actually longer than the parade itself. I mean, it was like, if you would pardon the expression, there used to be an ethnic joke, like a book... It's shorter than the Book of Italian War Heroes, you know. And so, I mean, so poor Columbus his parade was already stunted before he got nailed for bringing smallpox or syphilis or whatever.
That's what I refer
yeah.
to it as smallpox blanket day.
I remember the parade was so short.
You know how kind of like every Christmas we bring up the same stories and repeat them over and over. We all read the night before Christmas. Every Columbus Day, it's smallpox blankets again.
There you go.
Again with the blankets.
So there, hey, it was another wonderful, successful Attkisson Diet.
If you guys don't tweet
segment.
enough funny stuff before the next one, we'll have to go back to this.
We will go. We'll pick it up on February 8th. 2017. Thank you so much. Great show this week, Tim, as usual. Good night, everybody.